Okay, so we're inside of the ZBrush here. We need to make a base object. I'm going to go ahead and make it a sphere because it seems like right. T, there we go. Turn it to polymesh. We can turn it around, see it's working. We're going to put on our ground plane here. Oops. Put on our ground plane and see where we are. Now, if we look at this object, we can see already that if I use the move tool, you can tell you want the blue to face forward and the green to face up, because that way you know you're in the right direction. Okay, so we have that. The other thing I do usually is deformation, and I just say unify, just to make sure it's the right size. Okay, looks like it's great. So the next thing you're going to want to do is open up the draw panel. Now, I would just easy to keep coming back in here, but let's just double click on this right here, and it'll put it over on this side. Okay. With the draw panel open, we can see a bunch of things we can mess with. Now we can mess with the focal length and all that stuff too to make it more or less perspective. But what we're going to do is mess with these things down here called the front and back, and then the up, down, the right, left, and so on. So I'm going to go to map 1 and go to import. And inside of import, I'm going to go through that folder that I just made. I'm going to go to front, and that's the front map. And if you want to see, it's sitting right there. Now, where does it show up? Right behind it. Don't worry about the size. We'll fix that in a second. Okay. We don't want to have it that big because when we start dynameshing it, it's going to make everything much more dense. And we want to start with something like a sketch where it's not very dense. So I'm going to go to this left-right one, and I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to say import. I'm going to pick side. Okay. The side image is facing the wrong direction. Easy to fix. You just flip it. Pop, now it's in the right direction. Now, let's talk about some of these controls real quick. Let's go back to the front. And anytime, by the way, this works anytime you turn on your, if you go Shift P to turn on the floor plane, it shows up now. Okay. What I'm going to do real quick too is change this to a basic material. All right, so right now I've got this thing set with fill mode. And the fill mode is going to be set to 1. If I go to 2, you'll see that it's much more dense, and if I go to 3, it's dense as it can be, and then it actually starts cutting a hole in the middle of this. That's cool, but it's not really what we're looking for, so I'm going to go back to 2. How do we get this to show up on here? Well, we have front. Now we can see our sphere in like a transparent mode, and see it in the front view too. So we can turn that on and off as much as we need to. Then we also probably want to scale this image down. Well, in that's right here. Let's try 0.5 first. 0.5 actually looks pretty good. We can probably build our skull off of that, so that works pretty good. So if we look at it from the side, probably going to do the same thing. Go to the left, right, and change it to 0.5. Now they both should line up. One of the cool things about this tool is that as I touch the sphere, it puts a line to exactly where I am on the images behind it and on the side of it. So it's pretty cool. Now if I do X, then I can do it on both sides at the same time. So it's pretty cool, right? I like that. What we're going to do is build this head in 2 pieces at least, if not a little bit more. We're going to build the upper half and then the mandible, which is the bottom jaw part, as a separate piece. So that's pretty much setting that up now. I mean, I'll jump in here and turn this on some more sometimes and turn it off and turn it down, you know, and if it's down, I can see through it still. And then I'll turn off the front and, you know, and then I'll turn off the picture sometimes too. So this is all good for setting up our stuff inside of ZBrush. Simple. You can mess with the modifiers and play with some other things if you want, but you want to keep this as straight as possible. And the other thing we want to do is make sure on the sphere that we are centered, and it looks like we may be a little bit off. If we move this, obviously it's going to be even further off, so we don't want that. We don't want to move this object, we want to move the picture so it matches. So we come back to our picture, front back picture, and we're going to say horizontal offset, and we'll try it this way. Nope, let's get this back to 0. We want it the other way, 0.001. Almost 0.002. There, that's good enough. So now we know when we're in the center of this object, we're in the center of the plane too. So if we look at the edges, it's there. If we look at the outside of the eyes, that's there. If we come down to the air, we'll see we're right there at the same point. Perfect. More or less. Okay. So that's setting that up. You could do that with this side too, but this side's gonna be even. It's fine. This won't matter because it's not symmetrical. But that's that. Oh, the last thing we should probably do, just real quick, is we're gonna come in here. I'm gonna hide our draw. Come in here and go to geometry, and we're just gonna, instead of even dividing it up or anything, because we want to work at the lowest res we can, I'm going to push Shift F real quick. I'm going to say Dynamesh. And see what I got is I got 43K. Really, I don't want to go above what I have to start with. I can always add more, and I'm going to add more. So let's try 64. Or 64, if I can say what I'm thinking. That's 10,000. I'm fine with 10,000. Okay? So we've got a 10,000 poly sphere, Dynameshed up, with our perfectly set up background planes. And we'll go on to the next.